So here she is before primer. Last time we'll see it naked for a while. Welcome back, guys and girls, to another episode of Dad's Toy Garage. I'm pretty excited to bring you this episode. It's been a while since we've been on Project Judith and my 1973 Celica, and what we're doing today is a little bit of finalizing on the rotisserie, getting it ready for sending off to sandblast, and it is going to go to sandblast, and it is going to come back, and we're going to get the black on here as you see it now. So this is a little, I guess, a little peek into what you're going to see towards the end of the episode. So follow along, let's have some fun. Alright, in this corner right here I found a bit of an issue where the layer of steel is double. It was a little bit bulgy, and it turns out there was rust in there, so I cut it out. And I've made a new part to fit in there. So that's what I'm going to install now. Welding is done on this piece. I'm going to grind it down a little bit. I'll try and leave a little bit more weld on the inside edge where you'll never see it. But I want this edge to be clean. That is actually thicker gauge steel, so it should have a little bit longer life than the original piece. And I got weld through primer on the back side, and I've done 4 plug welds because this was also spot welded into there, so I will grind that smooth. I did leave a little bit of weld in here, but I shaved off the top of the plug welds and I smoothed out this edge. I want to leave as much as I can in there that's not as visible for strength, so that piece is now done. So I ended up doing the passenger side of my car, a little plate here. There was no rust in there, it was not rusted out. But my race car was rusted out on both sides there, and this car is rusted out on the other side. So I figured I'm just going to put a patch in there and we'll call it good, so it's got strength for years to come. Alright guys, working on the roof panel here. There's a bit of an oil can in here, a couple different areas. Lots of dents, and right now I'm using the, I guess you call it the unispotter or the stud gun, and I've worked out a little bit down here, and each time it pulls more tension here because stuff has been dropped on here, the corners have been hit, so I'm working that stuff out now, so I'll work on that a little bit. So you can see along here I've done a little bit of heat with the unispotter, and the reason is along in here you got your roof brace where this edge touches in here, and so when stuff is pushed on the center of the roof it bends where it's pretty much touching. So I took it to the high point here and that fixed that problem. This is still here, but we'll get that yet. Just in the middle of building a little tie together brace. Those adapter brackets that I have made, the bottom ones are on. They need to stay on because these risers are bolted to them. And then over here was the L brackets. They got to be welded onto the bar as well on the rotisserie. And in the center there's a piece of steel that is a little bit wider that this slides into. So yeah, that I drilled bolts through there, and it's adjustable for other width of cars. Got the joiner bar done, and just a quick look at the welded brackets. The angle brackets unbolt and the rest is welded on. Same thing on that side. This was kind of a pain here. The wiper arms had to be cut off, or at least the bolt, the threaded nut that holds on the pedestal had to be cut because it was so corroded it was actually bending my cowl. So now I had to go and hammer and dolly this straight, and my normal dollies don't fit back there, so I ended up taking this piece of copper or brass that I use for welding holes in the firewall and sticking it behind there, and then hammer and dollying this where it needs to go after pulling it back out. So yeah, that was a little battle that I had. Now I got to order those pedestal pieces. So what do you do with 3 rolls of duct tape? you recover your dashboard. Just kidding, actually I gotta protect the dashboard from the sandblasting, so there's multiple layers on here. I do not want to take it out because this car has destroyed itself when I took it out. It was so brittle already. This one is really quite nice once I sim it, so I'm aiming to try and save it. Alright guys, girls, today is kind of exciting for me. We got the 73 Celica up on the trailer here. So yeah, we're going to send this car off to sandblast now. I got a very makeshift spray booth. The car's going to be coming back soon. The shop's pretty empty with nothing in it. So all I did was take some Gorilla Tape and tape some plastic to this half of the shop just to keep our snake charmer and all the car parts clean of overspray from the priming and chassis paint that I'm going to be doing. Same with this shelf here. And the workbench is set up now. I got my sandpapers, putty boards, sanding blocks. I got my internal frame rail coating here to coat inside the rails and different hollow portions. Seam sealer here, that's ready to go. Gloves, paint suit and mask. And my really cheap paint gun and filters. Plus a little ball here that you put on the end. It's an additional precaution for keeping water out. Got some cleaning supplies, pre-cleano, so paint pre-cleaner, and my epoxy and gloss black for the chassis. So, and if I need to do a little more rust repair, I got some of those tools out too. Okay guys and girls, we got the Celica back from media blasting, and the company that did my blasting is called Blast It, and he's done my other parts on the car. His work is really good. So let's take a look at what he's done. Here is the car back from media blasting. He didn't do the quarters because he's done them before, welded them on. He just went over the welds on them. And we've got this rear filler gap done. The trunk floor is done. And I got him to do like all the window channels and the door jambs. They're all done. And the underside is done. We'll get a look at that later, but here's the inside. He's gone up into the firewall here. Then he did the cowl vents here. And the front window channel. Up in the aprons here. It's a little dark, I know, I apologize. And then the engine bay is done. And I have not seen anything blast through yet, so I think I've got all the rust, so that's pretty exciting. This car has to be raised back up. Once we raise it back up, we can start blowing the dust out of there. I'm sure there's a bunch of sandblasting dust in there yet. I think driving down the highway will have helped bringing this back from the next town over. Yeah, so we'll get it raised up, we'll blow it off, get it cleaned out, and then we're going to start with some internal frame coating after that. And here's the underside. Got it flipped over and set to the right height now. It's nice and clean. Not much way we can zoom out so you can get a better perspective, but I can get the ends here like this. So I got that thing all blown off. I remasked the dashboard. I guess we may as well get a look at it. Put some fresh tape on there so that I can start priming things and pre-clean out that part. So I gotta prime the shell, but the next step is gonna be getting in all the frame rails coated. And I think I've shown you guys this in previous videos. And this is what I'm using. It's a zinc phosphate coating, and it kind of soaks into the rust, so I cannot reach inside frame rails, and that's what that's designed for, to get inside those frame rails. We're up to priming now. I've got all the frame rails and internal parts coated. I used about 5 cans to do the frame rails and the the inside rockers and stuff like that. So used up what I had. So now we're on to priming. Here she is before primer. Last time we'll see it naked for a while. The car is now in primer, all of it, epoxy. I didn't film it because it was a lot of work and I really didn't want paint on the gun, or I mean on the camera. But I thought I'd show you the guys the after. It's still fresh, you can see it's shiny. I got the seam sealer done. I sealed everything off up in there, and then in the back of this ridge and the tubs. I went and did the panel seams. These ones. Some up in there. So I'm gonna maybe smooth it out a little bit now and then work at base or putting the black on. Alright guys, it's time to get some black onto the chassis of this car, onto the underneath of it. I guess I should say that is a single stage Imron gloss black, but super durable. My dad has this paint on his 1970 Nova, which he finished the restoration on 20 years ago, and it still looks great. So I should have at least 20 years out of this. Here is another angle. I figure I would get a little walk by. Shiny enough for the underside. And then I did the front of the core support as well, because when you are looking through the grill, I think my taste is not to have body color showing through. I kind of like it black behind the grill, so especially when I'm going to have the black GT grill on here. Well, thanks for joining me on another episode of Dad's Toy Garage. This was a lot of work to get this done, but this is a big step. The car is, as far as sandblasting goes, it's done, it's painted, so these are good things for this build. I can actually do most of the body work of this thing on the rotisserie, like mounting the doors, blocking it, getting them straight. So I have kind of set a goal. We're heading into fall now. By springtime, I would like to have the body work done on this car so that I can have it ready for paint early summer, late spring kind of thing. So I guess I better figure out what type of color I want to put on this car yet. But until next time, we will talk to you later.